Ever wonder how we're going to, like, feed everyone on the planet by 2050?
It's a big question, right?
Huge. And you sent over some really interesting stuff about aquaculture, which could be a big part of the answer.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's basically underwater farming.
Right. And it seems like it's, like, exploding in popularity these days.
Oh, absolutely. There's a growing concern about overfishing and, the demand for seafood just keeps increasing. So this is definitely a good time for a deep dive.
Okay, so let's dive in. You shared this guide about aquaculture harvesting workers.
Right.
That doesn't exactly sound like your average desk job, does it?
Not even close. It's incredibly hands-on.
What really struck me was a variety, like we're talking fish, shellfish, even seaweed. It's pretty amazing.
It is, and that's what this guide really highlights. I mean, imagine monitoring water quality at a huge, like, land-based salmon farm or harvesting oysters, up in the Pacific Northwest.
You know, land-based aquaculture. So not all of this is happening out on a boat somewhere.
Nope. We're talking, like, large tanks or ponds, often indoors. It's all very controlled.
Huh. That's interesting. So what does that actually look like then?
Think carefully controlled environments where you can really manage things like water temperature, oxygen levels, that sort of thing.
So it's all about finding the right balance, I imagine.
Exactly. It's a delicate system.
Okay, so if you're one of these aquaculture workers, what does a typical day look like? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, the guide mentions things like constantly monitoring the water quality. And it's not just, a quick glance. We're talking about tracking pH levels, salinity, temperature, all that good stuff that's like essential for the health of the fish.
Wow, okay. So there's some serious science involved here.
Yeah.
What else? I'm guessing harvesting days are pretty lively.
You could say that. I mean, the guide describes it as demanding, but also really rewarding, which makes sense.
Yeah. What's it like, actually?
It paints a picture of, you're wading into these tanks, you're carefully netting the fish, all while trying to make sure the rest of the stock isn't too stressed out.
Oh, wow.
So you need stamina, attention to detail, and definitely some quick problem-solving skills because, well, things happen.
That sounds intense, but also really cool, actually.
Yeah.
So if someone gets into this line of work, like, what's the career path look like? Is it just about, getting really good at scooping fish out of a tank?
That's just the beginning. The guide really emphasizes the transferable skills,
Oh, interesting. Like what?
like adaptability, problem solving on the fly, being able to work in sometimes unpredictable conditions. These are all super valuable skills no matter where your career takes you.
So it's like you learn all this on the job, and then you can take it anywhere. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay, let's switch gears for a sec. You also send over some info about this platform called RoleCatcher. How does that play into all of this?
So RoleCatcher is interesting because it tackles a big problem a lot of job seekers face nowadays.
Which is,
Navigating the, how do I put it? The automated world of recruitment.
those algorithms. They're supposed to make things easier, but it often feels like you're just, like, sending your resume into a void.
Exactly. And that's where RoleCatcher comes in. It essentially gives job seekers a peek behind the curtain.
Okay.
You can see what those algorithms are looking for and then tailor your CV to, highlight the skills and experience that really matter to employers in aquaculture.
Oh, I see. So it's like a secret weapon for standing out.
Uh,
That's cool. Does it work both ways, though?
it does, and that's what makes it so powerful. RoleCatcher helps employers too.
Okay, how so?
By connecting them with the most qualified candidates. It streamlines everything, makes the whole job market more, efficient for everybody.
I have to admit, it's already blowing my mind a little, and we're just getting started.
Right.
We've got this, like, booming industry, a job that's anything but boring, and now this platform that's using, like, high-tech solutions to connect the right people with the right opportunities.
And we've only scratched the
I was
surface.
just going to say,
We still need to dig deeper into what it actually takes to not just get a job in aquaculture, but actually thrive in this industry.
okay, let's do it. So let's say our listener is ready to, like, trade in their office chair for some waiters. What are the biggest takeaways from all of this?
Well, if we're talking about landing a job in aquaculture, the materials you shared really point to practical experience being key.
Right. It's one thing to read about it, but another thing entirely to, like, get your hands dirty.
Exactly. You can't really replicate the challenge of, like, maintaining water quality in a tank full of salmon when you're, sitting at a desk.
Definitely not. So internships Entry-level positions, that kind of thing. Those are really important.
They're invaluable. Think of it as an investment, even if it's not your dream job right away. It's about getting that hands-on understanding.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so hands-on experience, check. We also talked about RoleCatcher. How can someone actually use that to their advantage?
It's all about being strategic. Instead of sending out generic resumes, RoleCatcher lets you tailor your application, highlight the specific skills employers are looking for, and that actually ties into those competency-based interview questions.
Oh, right, right. Those are interesting. Can you remind me what those are again?
Basically, they're questions that ask about, how you've handled real-life situations. So instead of just saying, I'm a good problem solver, they'll want to know about a specific time you had to solve a problem, especially under pressure.
So it's about showing, not just telling.
Exactly. And that's where that practical experience combined with RoleCatcher's insights can be super powerful.
It's like having a roadmap for your career.
I like that.
Okay, but let's zoom out for a sec. We've been focusing on the job seeker, but this whole industry has a much bigger impact, right?
Absolutely. This is about way more than just, farming fish. We're talking about global food security.
Right, how to feed everyone.
Exactly. As the population keeps growing, the demand for protein is going to keep increasing too. So we need sustainable solutions, and aquaculture could be a big part of that.
It's like we're trying to, rewrite the future of food or something. Moving away from overfishing, finding more sustainable practices. And what about the environmental side of things? What are the benefits there?
Well, when it's done right, aquaculture can actually take some of the pressure off those wild fish stocks.
Okay.
We're producing seafood in these controlled environments so we can minimize habitat destruction, reduce bycatch, which is that accidental catch of unwanted marine life.
Right, that was something I remember reading about, yeah. But I imagine there are challenges too, right? It can't all be perfectly sustainable overnight.
You're right, it's a process. One of the biggest challenges is making sure that these aquaculture practices are truly environmentally sound.
In what ways?
Thinking about things like waste management, preventing disease, making sure the feed is sourced responsibly. These are all things the industry is constantly working on.
So it's about finding that balance, producing enough food while protecting the environment.
Exactly. It takes innovation, collaboration, and a commitment to always improving. And that's what makes it so exciting. It's a dynamic field that's always evolving.
We've covered a lot of ground from the day-to-day of harvesting to the big picture impact of aquaculture. What's one big idea you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
That aquaculture isn't just a job, it's an opportunity to be a part of something really meaningful.
I love that.
Whether you're passionate about science or, about protecting our oceans, or you thrive in those, hands-on dynamic environments, aquaculture has something for everyone.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap things up, there's one more thing I'm curious about. We've talked a lot about the big aquaculture farms, but what about, smaller operations?
Right.
The guide mentioned starting your own aquaculture business. Is that a realistic thing?
It definitely can be. And it just shows how much variety there is in this field. We're seeing a lot more smaller scale aquaculture businesses popping up.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them are family run, maybe focusing on niche products or, serving their local communities.
So you could have someone raising oysters in their backyard. That's so cool. What would someone even need to think about if they were interested in doing something like that?
Well, it's definitely not as easy as just, digging a hole and filling it with water.
Right.
The guide talks about things like what species you're going to raise, assessing the site, understanding all the regulations. There's a lot to it.
It's a whole other world.
Yeah.
But it's pretty exciting to think about. Okay, so we've painted a pretty, optimistic picture of aquaculture.
Yeah.
But realistically, what are the biggest challenges? What's standing in the way of it being this truly sustainable solution for the future?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
I guess so.
I mean, it all comes down to finding that balance between growth and responsibility. We've got to keep getting better at managing waste, finding alternative feed sources, and, making sure that developing aquaculture doesn't end up harming fragile ecosystems.
So it's a work in progress.
Always.
It's not like a quick fix. It's more about constantly innovating and adapting.
Exactly. And that's where, people like our listeners come in.
Oh, yeah.
By understanding how complex aquaculture really is, by, asking the tough questions and supporting sustainable practices, we can all play a part in shaping the future of this whole industry.
I love that. It's a team effort. This deep dive has been honestly eye-opening.
Yep.
I had no idea how much there was to aquaculture. It's clearly about so much more than just like putting fish in a tank.
Right.
It's about feeding the world, but doing it responsibly in a way that protects the planet.
Absolutely.
Well said. So, to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has maybe inspired you to, learn a little more about aquaculture. Whether you see yourself, I don't know, out there harvesting oysters or just like making more informed choices at the grocery store, every little bit helps.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.